Hello, 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 Juicy Beans. I am Jerome Braggs, the Soul Medicine Man, and I'm coming to you to have a wonderful conversation with someone I just highly love and highly respect, and about a topic that I highly enjoy, and and a topic that a lot of people, I know that a lot of you all who are watching in my tribe have questions about. You've asked me about it personally sir. And I thought, what better way to have this conversation and to answer some of those questions than to invite in an expert on the topic, in my opinion. So this person is who I'm about, as you can see her. So it's not like a big reveal, but she is an intuitive channel. She teaches spiritual connection, spiritual growth, how to get in touch with the other side of things, like the side of things that we see this physical, but there's also a non-physical aspect to life. And she teaches how to get guidance from that space, speak to that space, let that space speak to you, and really demystify the woo-woo a little bit. And so I'm really, really excited to have Stephanie Levenston here with me. She's a good friend. We met a few months ago and just really resonated as both of our work kind of swims in the same channel. We have a lot of uh, almost cross-pollination with what we do and our message. And so I'm really excited to be talking about channeling intuitive gifts and connecting with the soul with Stephanie Levenston. And for all of you all watching, it's Stephanie's birthday today. So say happy birthday to Stephanie. Oh, people are saying they can't hear me. Hold on one second. Can you all hear me? Let me write this up. Let me write a comment real quick. If you can hear me, you write a comment and say you can hear me. Hopefully people can hear me. Stephanie, you say something and make sure they can hear you.
Yes. Hey, everybody. Are you able to get sound from me? Can anyone hear me?
Maybe if I did this. Let me take my headphones out. Let's see if that happens. So, hey guys, can you all hear me at all? If you can hear me, please type in the comment that you can hear, because I can hear me and I can hear Stephanie. So I'm hoping that, again, guys, this is technology stuff. So sometimes it works great, especially when it's live, and sometimes it doesn't. So hopefully this is an opportunity where it can work great. Just give it 1 second. Okay, so the people are saying they can hear us, so we can go. Okay.
Hey.
Excuse me. So
Bless you, bless you.
thank you. So Stephanie, can you these topics? I know we said we are going to get together. We're both, intuitive channels and asked all the time. So what is an intuitive channel?
Okay, good question. Let me tell you first. I caught about every third word of what you said. So there is something funky going on with the sound, but since
Okay.
I don't need to hear you.
Okay.
Of mine. So an intuitive channel to me, and it means different things to different people, but in the work that I do, it means tuning in to spirit on a level that peels away some of the covers and layers that we have in our human form. So some people call it ego, and that's part of it that's being peeled away, but it is going to full trust in knowing that what is going to come through me by request and by my clients, what's on their heart, is going to be of the highest vibration. It's going to be of the highest truth, and it's designed to support them in their journey at that moment. So that's what being an intuitive channel means. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I
Okay.
can. Yes.
Okay. So that's channeling for me. It's bringing forward messages from divine, from spirit, from God energy. We all call it different things for the purpose of supporting us in our human journeys right now.
Oh, that's beautiful. I know some of the times when you almost took the words out of my mouth for what I say around it. One of the things I like to say in very short, when I have not that much time, is to say I kind of live stream the soul. That's kind of what, yeah, channeling really is. That I live stream, the soul or source or higher wisdom or whatever we want to call it. And yeah, it's a part. I think one of the things for me in demystifying it a little bit, because it can be oftentimes when we think about channeling or other people who don't necessarily do, they can often think about it as this really like otherworldly thing that is different and separate from something that they could ever do, like some skill that belongs on the planet almost.
Yeah.
And one of the pieces for me that really, because this, especially when I started, I used to hold channels up in this really high like platform, as if like I'm down here and they're like up here, and I should, with this regalness, and I should, just bow to them almost, and not understanding that we all have that because we're all extensions of source and we all have a connection like that, and that we all also channel a bit. So I know you are excellent at this because you teach people to use that connection. So I want to ask you a little bit about that. Does everyone have an ability to channel?
Hell to the yes, we all do, without question. And I say this all the time. We are all channels. Now, what channel we tune into does vary because we have choice over where we are placing our desires, our intentions, our focus. So it varies person to person, but I absolutely know without a doubt that I always say this: if I can do this, if I can do what I do and go through the process of self-trust enough to share it in this way and experience it in this way, then I tell my clients all the time, they can too. I can teach it. It won't necessarily be in the way that I do it. This is my flavor, but it will be in for them or for anyone else in the way that they do it that resonates with them. We are all divine beings. We all are spirit. We all have the soul. So there is nothing that defines a channel or one who channels. So let's not even call it a channel, right? But one who channels in any different way from anybody else walking the earth, other than the intention, the time, the focus, the energy to desire to sharpen that skill, to desire to get closer to source energy and truth in a way that can be used on a very powerful level. So yes, that's a long answer to your question. Yes, we all can channel, and it's super fun to see how it starts to play out for others, because in many ways it still feels new to me, and I've been doing it for years, but I'm always learning and I'm always stretching and I'm always taking such delight in my clients' expansion and how they're able to channel and how it's different than me, but what messages they get are just as relevant and powerful as the ones that I do. So yeah, yes, we can. And I love to teach it. It's incredibly empowering for people to recognize they don't have to go to someone else to do this for them all the time. This resides within them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's something that I love in, because when I work with individuals, oftentimes people ask me, how many times should they get a session with me? And my deepest intention is that my work helps you connect with that wisdom within you, so that you don't rely on me. Like, there's nothing wrong with getting help. Right. That's because that's really what we're doing. We're offering help through higher wisdom. But I think that the balance shifts. And I remember when I first was starting, I was definitely tipped on this balance where I was like always reaching out for a reading or a session or something constantly, like every 2 weeks. And there's not at some point in our lives when it's harder for us to, when we don't have the tools and we haven't practiced enough hearing ourselves, it's beneficial to get help. But with the balance is when like it's okay to get help, but when you balance over into believing that your source of help is always external and not internal, that's when it comes. And so the thing that just turns me, just really just turns my lights on is when somebody gets in and say, oh, like I can come to you, but I also can get exactly this experience on my own. And I think that's a beautiful thing with channeling. I want, like, my own experience. Yeah, that's something I want to, like, as we're talking about, it's almost like demystifying channeling is becoming the topic here. Um, in my own experience, I continue to grow. Like for many years, I've been doing this for years, but I wasn't public about it for years. And there's many reasons. One, the fear of rejection, because this can be seen as the furthest kind of dive into the woo-woo pool. And when, especially with growing up in a family that is, traditional Christian, and this can be seen as something else, which I'm going to ask you here in a second about. But it's the journey of really, really stepping into it and being public about it. And also the journey with, I've seen my ability, the comfort level and the flow of the messages that come through me now is much better than when it first started. It's kind of choppy, and my voice was choppy with it and all of that. So, yeah, I want to talk to you about your journey into it, because I know some people that are in my tribe here have either been in their journey of it or they're interested in it. So I want to ask you a little bit about how you came to becoming a channel, how you came to this particular part of your journey.
Yeah. So I will answer that. But first, I really want to honor what you just said about the balance of being channeled for, having someone tune in on your behalf and being in the receptive place to receive those messages, and the balance of doing so for yourself, because I completely agree. I will always have others channel for me. One, I find it to be one of the most spectacular experiences ever.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we have a human need for validation. And channeling is one of the quickest channels, directions, roads to validation. So oftentimes I'll tell people, especially those that are already tuned in whatever way they are, that it's not necessarily they're going to hear something new come through me, through their messages, but it's going to settle in on a deeper level, that which they already know, which can be that one little step closer to the expansion that they're looking for, or closer to taking the risk that they're wanting validation for. So I totally agree with you. And even though sometimes I think of it as I want to teach this so I work myself out of a job channeling for others, that's not actually true. That's not true.
Mm-hmm.
I want to keep, because the exchange is so beautiful and magical, and the transformation that happens each and every time for me and for my clients is unbelievable. So, all right, now I'll tell you about my journey. I found when I relocated to South Florida about 10 years ago to be closer to family, because my mother was diagnosed with dementia. I actually just published a book on my journey with her through dementia. I found a new friend who does exactly what you and I do. And as she and I got to know each other, and I saw this gift that she had, which of course we all have in some way, it sparked something in me so strong that I didn't even question, could I? I just thought I have to, figure out how she got there, how she did this. So I just started following the logical steps to it. At the time I was, I've been working as a speech pathologist in a hospital setting. So a very clinical mind, very practical, very functional mindset that I've had for the 20 years that I've been working as a clinician. So this definitely strayed from that. You have to open that up, stretch that a bit to be even open to channeling. It is out there. It is another world. It's otherworldly. But I got some training from some beginning channeling classes from her mentor first. And that mentor started us with pendulum, which I like to say is not for the faint-hearted. Starting to work with a pendulum because it requires such intense concentration, focus, and patience is a really great way to weed out those who are truly interested and dedicated to channeling and those who don't have that, that focus or desire to do it in that way. So we moved through the pendulum to doing soul charts where we used grids with a pendulum to identify different aspects of our souls. These, if we believe, as I do, that our soul comes back for many lifetimes, to serve and to learn and to expand, then we have certain aspects that follow the soul. That's already an imprint on the soul, is what I believe. And so I was able to learn how to use grids to identify different soul aspects of clients. And I started doing just the charts for a while. Then as this friend and I started creating powerful circles of mostly women, with this sacred center, this spiritual center, and she was channeling the messages, I recognized that I was also hearing messages too. And they were different from what she was bringing forward. So I went through for quite a period of time, such intense self-doubt. I'll never do it as good as she does. Who am I? These messages are coming through me. Are they even coming through me, or am I just making this shit up? How will I know what's real and what's not? When do I know if I should share it or not? All of these very natural questions started coming up. And my guidance system, they have great humor. And so they just kept nudging me forward, until I found a mentor that really resonated with me. And I happen to really like Sonia Choquette. She's a world-renowned psychic medium. She's done a lot of books. I've read every one. That's just where I felt led. So I did her training. She has a series of trainings. And I remember after the second one, there are 4 levels, I believe. After the second one, I was driving. And I was running through my mind the things that she said in her training and the things that she said to me personally. And I realized I am the only one in my way from delivering this. It's like I'm holding on to something out of fear of sharing, out of fear of being judged, out of fear of it not being real. And that's not serving anyone, and it's not serving my purpose. So I made an agreement with my guides that if they would assure me that those who came to me would be a good energetic match, because to me that's really important. My empath tendencies are so strong that if someone is a lower vibration, the pain and I feel that. I move through it, but I feel it. And I didn't really in the beginning want to carry that. I still don't actually. So I made some agreements. If they could be the gatekeepers for me, if I could have the level of confidence, not necessarily in my own skill, because that only comes with time and practice, but in my energetic support system to help me out with that. Sorry, Jerome. I totally forgot to turn off Do Not Disturb. And since it is my birthday, people are calling in.
That's okay. Yeah, if you want to. I mentioned in the beginning, it's Stephanie's birthday today. Yeah.
It's good to be loved. And so in that moment in the car, I said, okay, I'm ready. Send me who is a good fit for me energetically that I can support in their journey. Within an hour, I'm not making this up, I got my first call. for a client. And I don't, it was crazy how they were referred. They were referred to me by my esthetician, by the woman who does facials for me. So it was miraculous. And then, of course, as you know, word of mouth spreads. And when you are up to good stuff and it is in powerful service of others, you don't really need to advertise that much to get this, you know, to bring in the people. So that's how I started. And I believe 90% of it for me is self-trust. We can learn all we need to learn, but I believe we actually, most of us, know all that we need to know in this moment to bring our gifts forward.
Yeah, I think trust is huge. Not just in channel, well, especially for channeling. Let me start with that, especially for channeling. But in any opening or deepening or expanding of any intuitive gifts, even just listening to your intuition, trust is huge. I think that was, for me, why it took so long for me to step into it. Was the trust aspect, because I remember I first started on my journey, from listening to Abraham Hicks, like I think in like 1999 or something like that. And I remember I heard them and I was like, and something in my gut. I can't explain it. It wasn't something that I wanted to, that I had any previous awareness of, because channeling was very new to me then. I knew a little bit of psychics. I had got a psychic reading with tarot cards. But a friend of mine had given me back then, Abraham had cassette tape. They had a cassette that they would give you as an intro to them. And he had given me this little cassette tapes. And I remember after the shock of it, right, which I want to ask you about, the question I want to ask you about, and right after this, it deals with the shock of it. After the shock of it, there was just something in the pit of my stomach that was like, this is supposed to be my life. Like this is my life is supposed to look like this. So I thought my life is supposed to look like this. So it's supposed to happen just like this. And just like, Esther, who's the channel of Abraham, just like how she met Abraham, I'm supposed to do that. And the process by which it opened is supposed to look like that. And so I did all of that. Like, I sat in wingback chairs like she did, and I meditated, and, I did all that good stuff. There's nothing happening for me for years, other than just me, experiencing meditation and the experiences of meditation. And then when it first started, because it didn't look like what I had perception about how it should look in the beginning, I didn't trust that's what it was. And I think that's a large piece too. For me, the messages I thought, again, it has to sound like this otherworldly kind of voice or wisdom coming through, but it sounded like me a little bit. And I didn't trust that, I was like, that can't be not me. Like, there's no wisdom in me like that. So for a long time, like my gifts and my abilities as they look now were not there because of the trust aspect, the trust in what I was hearing, the trust in what I was feeling, the trust that my journey, and this is a big part for me that I think I like to share with people, is that your journey is yours. So it's not going to look necessarily like, it's not going to be the same. Exactly. And it may not look like, not just your journey to the opening of the gift, but how the gift expresses itself. So like, I'm sure, as we talk about here in a second, like what your process looks like and what my process looks like, the people will see differences in them. And then that's okay. Like, there's not one way of being human. And so there's not one way of channeling. But yeah, the thing I want to start with, the question that I want to ask you next is like this whole thing around, I remember, again, when I first listened to Abraham Hicks, there was, the wisdom resonated so strongly, but it was pressing up against this fear I had, like, okay, what is that? Is she being possessed? Is that like, is that like, I don't want something to come in and take control of me. And I think that there's this aspect for people around channeling as if there's something coming in and taking control of you. And I
Yeah.
want you to speak to that, just
Yeah.
that kind of belief that also that it's dark as well, that this is dark and there's something controlling you.
Right. Oh, such a good point. And let me just giggle for a minute at the fact you even selected the same chairs, the wingback chairs.
It had to, because that's how, like in my mind,
This
this
is
is
what
the way it has to happen. This is how you do it. Yeah,
I love that so much. Well, ritual is important, right? So, that
yeah.
probably support you in that part. Um, Yes. So I oftentimes find this is such a good question. I oftentimes find myself reassuring new clients as part of my initial spiel before we start the session. I will say, this is what I do. This is how I do it. And then I say, nothing dark, nothing creepy, nothing low vibration is coming through. I am not open to that, is what I tell them. We are tuning into very high frequency, only divine loving energy, because it makes sense for people to be wary of this. The movies depict spiritual connection in a variety of ways, very few of which are positive. There is very little reason to feel reassured in any new experience, let alone where someone comes to you physically or through the phone and is essentially saying, please look through me and find my soul. There is nothing, I think, more vulnerable to in that connection than someone saying, I'm willing for you to see, literally to see through me, to see the truth of who I am. And some people are afraid of what their soul will look like, will say, will communicate. And again, because it's an unknown, right? If it's a new experience, or if you've been influenced by other people's bad experiences, and sometimes there are clients that say, I had this horrible experience with another medium and I'm not even sure I want to be here doing this. So all of that is to say, dark energy, sure, there's low vibration, there's a lot of disturbing, distressing things going on, a lot of humans making choices that are from non-love, that are from fear, that are atrocious. I'm not trying to gloss over it. There is that. There's no question about that. When I channel, that I'm just not going to that place. I'm just not open there. That's never anything anybody's wanting to bring forward. Can we talk about the atrocities going on the earth plane? Like, nobody's going to, and we're bombarded with it all the time. So I feel that in order to reach the tipping point on the earth plane, which is what I am desiring, towards love and compassion and acceptance and connectedness, then we cannot spend time in that space. That will hijack us emotionally, spiritually, even physically, with physical health issues. And I'll share a story. So as channels, we have interesting interviews, right? When we are going to get jobs, unlike any others that I've experienced before. So I went on an interview to do, to channel at a new venue. And the woman who owned the venue, highly experienced channel, and she's got this crystal shop. And so I felt intimidated. She has 30 years on me in terms of experience. And my interview is to channel for her. No pressure, right? Oh my gosh. So I do my thing, and she says to me afterwards, I'm really glad to see that you are a conscious channel. And I was like, awesome. What is that? What's a conscious channel? I didn't even know there were different varieties. And she said that you do not bring in, as in allowing the taking over of your body, external entities, from outside. And I thought to myself, why the hell would I do that? Like, of course, no, but this is just not, it's not ever something that I was present to that I had to be clear about, because my exposure to channeling had been so limited. It was this friend who did it, and then some mentors who never talked about spirits overtaking your body or taking control. And so then I recognized, in my desire to have clear boundaries, I had already clearly communicated that I'm not open for this. This is mine. This casing, yeah, it's mine. And I don't want to feel the presence of an unwelcomed entity. And to me, any other entity is mostly unwelcome. I am open to receive language. I'm open to receive guidance, but I'm not going to carry any of this physically. So I think that is essential to having health and well-being in this type of work, is you have to get super clear on your boundaries. Some people do want to experience that. I suppose to some people it feels very powerful to have a spirit literally move into their physicality and direct them in how to move their bodies or what to say or how to speak. That's just not for me.
Yeah. It's interesting because the wisdom was so profound that was coming through. It felt different, right, from me. I remember I was thinking again, because I was in such comparison mode. So I was thinking, okay, so Esther has this Abraham. So Abraham is this different consciousness thing. So this has to be this different consciousness thing. And I remember wanting to asking tell me your name, tell me your name, tell me your name, tell me your name. And the consciousness would never say, they would never say anything. They would never say anything. And so for a while in the beginning, I just didn't believe I was doing anything. I wouldn't believe, if you're not going to tell me your name, this can't be real. So what I did was I just named them, because what it felt like was how I started was they started speaking to me through automated writing. After I would meditate, I'd have just this strong urge to go to my journal and just write out, and there'd be a message for me every time. And it would always start, "Dearly beloved." And so I said, oh, this is the beloveds, right? This is what I'm going to call you. I'll call you the beloveds. At that time, it's funny now, in the past few years, I've gotten deeper awareness because I've been doing this now for a few years, and talking with them for a while, that was the only way I was doing this, is if I thought they were a separate thing from me. And what I now know is from having the conversation is they're actually just they're the larger part of me. They're the higher wisdom. And so when I talk to people about channeling, who are interested in it, I don't teach it as much, but if someone is interested in it, I always say, you want to just start saying, I want to connect to the highest part of me that's available. Right. And then so that you're not thinking about something externally coming, or you're not trying to put pressure on you to reach out there, because really there's nothing out there anyway. It's all in here, but so that you have a very personal, loving experience, and it's about raising your vibration instead of all the other, like you said, lower vibration things do exist, and everything exists. Like, there are things on the higher aspect that you can't even imagine, right? That are just beyond your imagining, that are just so beautiful and so amazing and beyond imagination. And there are things on the lower aspect that are beyond your imagination and just atrocious and horrendous. And when you want to change your aspect, right? So that's why meditation to me is an important aspect in it. But yeah, it's really important. I love that you said that, because to have your boundary, and one of the ways to do it is to say, I want to connect to the highest part of me available.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you a little bit about your process. So what does it look like, right? If I'm coming to you for a session and I'm sitting in front of you, what am I going to see, like, you go through?
Yeah. Not much. It's not very. How can I make this sound magical? um, there's such a difference now in what I do to prepare myself versus what I did years ago in a very stringent, structured way, because I felt like I won't be able to receive or tune in unless I've meditated for this long, and unless I have said the same thing before every single session, and unless I visualize myself taking all of my perspectives, boxing them up and placing them next to me on the floor, and all of this to clear my own filters to be of highest service. So now you would just sit in front of me and we'd smile at each other. And I would explain to you that when I do channel, I close my eyes because I need to limit my sensory input. I also do need to be in a quiet space. I cannot channel well if there is a noisy environment and auditory distractions. I'm just highly sensitive to sensory input. And I close my eyes and I take 3 deep breaths before I begin every new session, because it's a signal for me to recenter, and it's a signal to quickly clear out whatever might have trailed through, and from previous thoughts or from a previous session. And I invite my clients to do the breath with me, because usually in the beginning of the session, they're all up here in their head with thought and concerns and fears and wonderings. So the breath always helps us drop deep. It helps us drop into the body. It helps us be fully present in the moment. But on the side of things that you don't see, I do have a meditation practice. I wish I could say I'm religious about it and that I adhere to it very strictly. I don't. I grab it when in stretches of time, when I have longer periods that I can really tune in and go there. But for the most part, it has to be functional in my life. And so it comes in moments of time. And sometimes those moments are minutes, and sometimes they're just fleeting moments. But I'm downloading all the time. I have my connection activated with my guidance system all the time. And so there is a conversation going on back and forth, usually quite hilarious, constantly, which delights me. But people often ask me, do you get overwhelmed, with messages at the grocery store? Do spirits come and talk to you, or messages come to you? No, I'm not open to it. I make that clear. The boundary part of things is really important to me. So I'm not available at, in my daily outings or my, I'm sorry, birthday caller. And so I think that's important too. And that's important in our daily lives, even if you never want to do any channeling a moment in your life. We have to have boundaries. I feel that we do with those that we love, even with those that we don't even know, because energy is a constant. There's a flow in and there's a flow out. And unless we get very balanced with allowing the outflow, then we will feel tired, drained, sick, fatigued from the energetics that we're bombarded by all the time. So that's my thinking.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm in conversation of it today. Mainly because for my life, most of it, right? It's just like, okay, because I'll ask questions. I'll say, okay, like can help me see what this is about more, or something like that. And I love that you say that, because a lot of times when I'm have a client come in who wants an intuitive session, and let's say like I have a client today after this, and already, I have received message. I've never met the client or anything, and already I will have received some information before I meet with them. It's not just in that moment with that. And I love that our processes are kind of very similar. I do the breathing as well. where I usually do a 30-second meditation in the beginning, just me, and I have the client just kind of clear their mind while I'm doing that, because that kind of opens me up. And when I'm not, what I found, which is kind of funny, is when things like, especially if I'm doing it live, like for a public event, if I'm not in the because, so for me, if I don't, and if I'm in a live space and I don't feel the connection, one thing that always helps is like if I start laughing. If someone tells me a joke or something and I start laughing, I mean, by the end of the laugh, it's like, oh, okay, I'm ready. And then I can close my eyes and go. And also, I'm very sensitive to a lot of sensory information. So it's funny, I'm almost a little jealous of the channels who can open their eyes, because I cannot. it just does not work for me. My eyes have to stay closed. And I was like, I would love to be the channel that can get up and walk around the room with their eyes open and closed. But yeah, we have very similar things around that.
Yeah. And you know what? I know that if I had my eyes open, I would immediately be saying, oh, he looks like this isn't resonating with him. Oh, I bet I got the wrong message. Oh, look at that board. He just changed his eye gaze, and now he's not even looking at me anymore. What a failure this session is. So we don't need to look.
Yeah. 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 I totally get it. I totally get it.
I forgot to say, which I can't even believe it, because it's so important to me. And what you were asking about, how do I prepare myself? What's my process? Radical self-care. If I stray from self-care, from radical self-care, then I can still channel, but I am feeling like the quality of connection is not very good. I don't feel good about myself in it. I don't feel deeply rooted and connected in it. It's full of dis-ease when I am not in the place of radical self-care. And this crosses all areas, all aspects of our lives, because if we do not prioritize the self, then we actually do not have anything but little crumbs to offer those that we're in service to. They just get the leftovers, and that's so unpleasant. And that's, for some, that still might be enough, but it's not enough for me. I want the overflow. I want to be so full and fulfilled that what I am routing out there into the world is the overflow of joy and love and kindness and compassion that's just emanating, rather than what I have to dredge up and dig up because I'm not sleeping, or I'm not caring for myself, or I'm not exercising or eating well, or all the things that are truly important for taking good care of the self.
Yeah, it's like one thing that helps me understand that whole thing, because it's the same thing with me, is that so I'm a channel, so I'm like a filter, right? And when I'm feeling icky, or I'm stressed or drained or overwhelmed or angry or sad, it's like the filter. So I'm like a channel for source energy, right? So and source wisdom. So it's coming through and to, right? Through and to. So like a filter, right? So I want to have my channel like that. And so that it just has a clear flow through. I just kind of close it down a little bit. So the information can still come through, but you're just getting kind of like that, right? And it also doesn't feel good, because for me, when I connect, it's like a rush of like energy. And if I'm like this, it's like, and it does not feel great for me. Yeah, it's almost like being in a rapid and being kind of thrown against the rocks a little bit when I'm in resistant energy. And so when I open my energy up, then it's like a really good flow, and I feel really good afterwards. I can feel really good during and afterwards. But when I'm not, it's just not a good time for me or for the client, really. And so that whole self-care process is so important. And a part of that self-care process is knowing when I'm not in that space and to relay that to my client so that I'll reschedule a session if I'm ever like that. If it comes up and I have a session where I'm just like, look, I'm feeling shitty today, and you don't want me to channel for you when I'm feeling shitty.
Yeah,
That's not going to be
integrity on your part.
but yeah. And again, like you said, I could totally push through and like try to fake it and all of that. And you may gain something from that, but I would just feel so horrible about that whole thing. Yeah, so let's go here a little bit, because what would you say would be the benefit of receiving a channeled like session or reading versus just I don't want to say just, because that's like, I don't want to infer any like judgment in this at all, because there's none. But like, what would you say channeled session versus let's say a regular intuitive or psychic session?
I don't know, because believe it or not, I've never been to a psychic. Right? You would think that I would have. I mean, even though I have sought training, by Sonia, I have never had a reading from her. And I've only really personally experienced what is called channeling. And so that kind of is all I really know. I know what people have reflected to me from their experiences seeing psychics. I know what my concerns would be, and why I haven't actually availed myself of that is, I have a very deep belief that free will is what guides all of our journey. And so if someone were to inform me of something that is coming, something that will happen, a situation or relationship change or whatever it is, in some ways that might be comforting and relieving. Well, I think it is to a lot of people. For me, I don't actually think I want to know that. I think that it will take me out of the present moment. This is just my personality. And then I will start planning, and then I will start obsessing, and then I will start, just allowing the spinning of wheels that just sucks a lot of energy out of places that I want my energy in. So I don't know. I can't compare, like, to give insight on a personal experience with that. What about you, though? I'm curious, have you had that comparison point, and how would you answer?
Yeah, so this is a question for me. I offer both channeled, like I have channel gifts, and I can also do it to where it's not necessarily a channel, but I'm using more of my other intuitive gifts for that, right? And also I've worked many spirit fairs. That's how it started. So I've worked with that. So I'm very familiar with a lot of the people in the work here that are in this area, around in this area. So I'm familiar with that. So I did a video a few years ago on the difference between psychic and intuitive. So I'll start with that. So psychic gifts usually psychics who work specifically with psychic readings are going to look specifically at what you've set in motion for yourself in the future. So they're looking at even if they're not aware of what it is, what they're really tuning into is like how we create. So you want something, or you say you want something, or you ask for it, or you see something, you have a preference. It sets that into motion and energy for you, like for that to be, because this is the ask and it's given universe. So it's like you ask and it's given, and there starts a trail of motion for that to happen. So psychics tune into the trail of motion, the trail of momentum towards your, one second. So the psychics, this is the beauty of live. So psychics tune into the momentum that you have towards something. So that's why they'll say something like, you know, you have a boyfriend coming in 2 months, or this doesn't work out. The thing about it, the thing that the psychic people that I know that will do very well, that are very in integrity, is like what I see from where you're vibrating right now. Mm-hmm. Like if you make a choice after this, you can make any choice after this, and this momentum could cease and something else could happen. So it's not like this future is set in stone, because your vibration is what determines all of what you receive. So you could literally make a different choice and within an hour after this reading, around your life or a belief system that you have or desire that you have, and it will nullify everything that they saw in that reading, right? So that's kind of the interesting portion of psychic readings, right? With people that do that. With channeled readings, it's more of, I'll speak for me, so when I'm doing just an intuitive session for somebody, actually, let me back up. So let me talk about intuitive versus psychic. So that's psychic. An intuitive reading is looking at what's happening now. Like, what is your vibration now? And why is this showing up now? And what shift do you need to make now to get to what you want? So the intuitive reading is more looking at what's emanating out of your energetic field now, and how that relates to what you want, or is that an open? Are you in alignment with what you want, or out of alignment, right? So that's kind of the difference. But psychic readings are going to look at, you've already set in motion what you're attracting, really, right? And then is going to look at energy is doing right now, and how that is either serving what you want or not. And the channel reading, even than that, to me, a broader aspect than that, because it's really taking the broadest perspective about it and looking at showing up for you, or what do you want and how do you get there. I like when you're channel, you know, and you're connecting to whatever that is, like your soul or your guides or whatever, the higher non-physical aspect has the broadest perspective. So they see beyond just timeline. They see things, they see your intentions beyond what you're aware of for things. They see how things are serving you, and they also see what's in what you created for yourself, how close you are to that, all of that, right? And so you get this broader perspective, get kind of also, let me add this too. There's less of a, so talking about filter, part of your filter also is your consciousness, your individual consciousness in there. There's less of residue from your consciousness in a channel reading than there is in a psychic or intuitive reading. There often is a lot of that information is almost always filtered through the individual person you're seeing, through their consciousness when you're getting a psychic or just a psychic or an intuitive reading. Whereas in a channeled session, your individual consciousness is lessened to a certain degree. So it's less coming through of that and more the broader perspective.
Cool.
So I'd say that.
Well said, as is everything you say.
Well, thank you. So yeah, let's just, like, in the last few minutes here, what would be something that, for the people that are watching, what would be something that they could, if they want to serve others, or if they just want it to be able to benefit themselves more, what's an exercise or a process, like what's the beginner steps to begin this journey?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So foundationally speaking, self-care first. Don't attempt anything if you are treating yourself like crap. And if you are ignoring, basic needs, and I don't mean food and shelter and water. I mean plenty of sleep. I mean solitude and alone time. I mean deep connections with those that you love in your life. I mean time in nature. I mean exercise to move energy out of the body, because we do hold on to stagnant energy, and that influences everything. So foundationally speaking, self-care is the very basic thing. I always guide people to come up with a list of at least 25 things that bring them joy and delight, that make them feel really, really good. And it can be as simple, like for me, I love dark chocolate, or it can be as big as a big vacation to Europe or something like that. But things that you can also do daily, that don't require a whole lot of planning. And so having that list handy and choosing things from it every single day is a way to show self-love, which is self-care. Of course, the two are definitely intertwined. The other thing I guide people to do is to develop some type of practice or ritual. And I have strayed from using the word meditation because I find that it contains such a charge. People run for the hills when I say, do you meditate, or do you want to learn to meditate? We have a faulty notion that we are miserably failing at meditation if we cannot get to the blank mind space, right? I get there, and I've been practicing it for a long time. So really, I feel like the goal for meditation is just get some space between your thoughts. A nanosecond is successful. If you have a nanosecond between one thought and the next that come flying by at breakneck speed, you are successfully meditating. So I call it instead deep listening. I guide people to develop a practice of deep listening, where they're either only focused on the breath, or they can do something that is guided. There's a lot of, wonderful guided deep listening practices out there, since I'm avoiding using meditation words, that allow you, or through music or through anything. There's so much available to us in the digital age that we can use to settle, just slightly settle the energy. Bring yourself back into the present moment, into your body. See what you feel. And then like you said earlier, and I do this with those clients that I'm coaching to get to a place where they more deeply connect for themselves. Right? Bless you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
When you come out of your deep listening practice, if it is something that you are desiring, you may be receiving messages. You may be receiving guidance. In fact, I am certain that you are. We're just not always present to it. If you allow yourself to write, writing is a form of channeling. Art is a form of channeling. Music is a form of channeling. There's so many ways to bring through spirit guidance. And so allowing yourself the flow of writing is another foundational tool that I usually guide people on the beginning part.
Yeah, great. And so how may be interested in reaching out to you, how can they, well, one, like what kind of services you?
Yeah. I heard part of what you said, but the sound is a little iffy now. So as an intuitive channel, I provide readings based on anything that is on your heart. So it can be personal, professional, relationship based. I can tune into those. I could do mediumship. I can tune into those that have transitioned and are no longer on the earth plane, or tune into your own higher self, or the higher self of anybody that you want to hear from. We actually don't need their physical permission to do that, because it's all high vibe loving information. And so that's what I do. It has profound effects, I'm told, and I personally experience them as well. It can be a complete game changer in whatever direction you're headed on in your life, or wherever you perceive yourself to have blocks. This can take the lid off of that and allow a level of expansion that is really, truly hard to describe. But I do have a Facebook business page, Stephanie Levenston Intuitive Channel. You could read some of the reviews that my clients have posted about their experiences. That can help you understand what clients are getting from working with me. And then the coaching aspect of what I do is to really support you in your journey to get back to yourself, to come back to your self-trust, to come back to that powerful, amazing, fully intact inner voice that is designed to give you the best life you want.
Yeah, great. Again, I highly recommend everyone connecting with you. Just in the short time I've known, I have really loved what you put out, and yeah, check out her Facebook page and your website.
And my
What's your
web,
website again?
StephanieLevenston.com. It's Levenston. There is no G in it.
Yeah, I think you all could see the spelling of her name underneath her picture here on here, so you should be able to get that correctly. You can go to that website and her Facebook page. So in the last minute here, some just quick fire questions. Just like one or two words that pop up in your mind. What's the best thing about being a channel?
Divine connection.
What's the most challenging thing about being a channel?
Self-trust.
Favorite self-care tool when things get a little wonky for you?
Animals, connection to animals and nature.
What's your definition of the soul?
The student aspect of ourselves that comes through every lifetime to support, to inform, to bear witness to, and to remember.
And last question. It's your birthday. What would be the best gift for your birthday?
A big old nap.
I hear you on that. Well, Stephanie, it's been an honor and a joy. I really enjoyed this, and I'm really grateful for you for demystifying channeling, and for everyone here who has been watching or will watch in a replay. I highly connecting with personally, or you go and like her Facebook page and check out her website. You will be blessed, as she's been a blessing here already. So thank you so much, Stephanie. Till next time, go enjoy your birthday. So much love and bliss and laughter and naps today and all throughout the year.
Thank you, Jerome. Much love to you.
Much love. Bye, everyone.